In honor of our special guest, 8 more months till Halloween, Silver Shamrock. That's right, baby. We got Dick Warlock, Michael Myers himself. So I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And we're Dysfunctional Nerdcast. So just a little background on how we got to know Dick. Two of my best friends, Dallas and Curtis. Here's your shout out. Thank you very much for helping this, get us set up with this. They've been throwing a Halloween party for like 10 years or more. And Dick Warlock was actually at the party. They got to know him through a couple conventions. So I attend the party, and I also got to know Dick. He tells awesome stories at these parties. One of my favorite horror memories of all time at this point is actually sitting at a Halloween party, watching Halloween 2 with Michael Myers on the couch next to me, giving me commentary during the movie.
That's awesome. Did you share popcorn with him?
We didn't have popcorn, but probably candy.
Awesome.
But it's unreal to me. It's such a surreal experience. I mean, I watched that movie growing up as a kid, and here you are. It's like, if someone told me that would happen, I would never believe it.
It's cool, man.
So I've gotten to know him at a couple different conventions. I've had dinner with him a few times. I went to the Indianapolis to meet Jamie Lee, the night she came home, and he was, of course, there signing at the convention. He took us out to dinner, got us into all the VIP stuff with Jamie Lee Curtis. It's like, hey, walk right in, they're with me. I was like, fuck yeah, we are, Nice. Super cool. So he's one of the greatest guys ever, and I've been wanting to get him on the podcast just to share his stories. He's done everything, dude. He's been stunt coordinators in some of the biggest horror movies ever. Child's Play, Friday the 13th, Pumpkinhead, Jaws. He drove the car, Herbie the Love Bug.
He's done everything.
Mel
all
Brooks
genres.
movies.
Yeah.
So we'll delve into that during the interview. He's got a lot of stories to tell, and without further ado, here's Mr. Dick Warlock.
Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make him the cutest.
I'm surprised that you couldn't go online and find an answer to every question you could possibly want.
People are too lazy for that, though. Our listeners don't want to do research. They just want it hand given to them,
Well, you're one of those guys.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we want to hear it right from your mouth, too,
Yeah. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. So you said you were playing Red Dead Redemption 2?
Yes.
What did you name your horse?
Oh, I don't name the horses. That's all.
All right.
What do you think I might have named my horse? I keep losing horses. I had a great horse there a while back. I got a nice big gray horse, and he was a runner. He was strong, and of course I always get myself screwed up, and I lose my horse or my hat or my gun or something, so I lost this, and now I got some old nag that only 3 dots on the bar, so. He's not very smart, not very fast, and not very stout. So anyway, yeah, I enjoy that game. I've got the first edition, way back when they first came out. Not many people kept that around, I don't think, because it was really bad. But then when they came out with just the Red Dead Redemption, that was good.
Yeah, you and Kat are horse riders, right? You have horses, or you had horses, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll jump into it. I got to ask first, did you see the new Halloween movie?
Yes, I did.
What was your reaction to it, or your thoughts on, did you like it, not like it?
I thought it was pretty good. I thought, the guy that played Myers, I thought he was good.
Yeah, James Jude Courtney.
Yeah. Right. I thought he was pretty good. I did. The movie was not what I expected. I thought it would be, I don't know. It's hard to put words to my feelings about the thing, because I feel like I was knocking Carpenter and everybody concerned with it, and I'm really not. But I thought they could come up with something a little bit better than what they did. But it's like the one I refer back to is Jaws. There's only one Jaws, no matter how you cut it. The other ones are junk. And you just can't beat the originals, usually, no matter what it is.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, we're not the biggest fans of the new Halloween. I just didn't like that it was supposed to be a new, I guess, retelling of what happened, and they got rid of your movie and all the others after it, but then I thought they kind of just stole pieces of those movies anyway. So I didn't understand why they just took pieces of it instead of just going a whole new path.
What they did, I felt, was pay homage a little bit to all the movies, because I recognized several scenes from Halloween 2, the little boy or the guy bumping into Myers when he's on the way to the hospital. There's 3 or 4 spots in there where they paid homage to that movie by doing the same scene, just in a little bit different way.
Right, and the one that starts off the movie, and it started off your movie as well, where you're walking down the alleyway and you go into the woman's house where she's making the sandwich to get the butcher knife. I mean, that was directly out of Halloween 2.
Sure.
So did you have any feelings or flashbacks of seeing that scene on the big screen a second time compared to your movie?
No, I mean, it was. I recognized the things as it went along, but I'm not as attached to any movie I've ever done. There's only a couple. Jaws was one of them. You know, and just the outstanding things, The Abyss. I mean, that was because of Cameron working with, you know, him and Spielberg on Jaws and those kinds of things. But as far as the movie itself, I'm not attached to it in any kind of way, you know, that's emotional or any other feelings, you know, other than, hey, that's you know, it was an interesting movie. It's like Halloween 3. I really liked that movie too. A lot of folks didn't, but now it's getting its own audience and it's moving right along.
So you didn't feel slighted in any way that they retconned, you know, every movie after part 1? Then you were okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So before we get into, you know, the Michael Myers phase, can you just let us know, I guess, how you got started up, how you wanted to be a stunt man? I mean, were you a daredevil as a child, or how did you initially get into it?
I guess you could say I was a daredevil. I was always playing cowboys and Indians. I was the first guy to fall out of the tree in the snow with the sleds. I was the first guy down the hill to crash, and you know, just so I guess you could say there was a little bit of that in me. I was 12 years old. We arrived in California when I just turned 13, 5 days after we got there. And I started watching the TV, as you know, kids do, and I saw a series called The Range Rider with Jock Mahoney, a stuntman turned actor. If you remember him from Tarzan or any of that stuff. There was a kid on the show played a character named Dick West, and his name was Dick Jones. Now, Dick Jones goes way back into the childhood stuff when he was an actor, and he was the voice of Pinocchio at Disney Studios. And when he showed up on screen, I thought, I'd be a good stunt double for him. And mind you, I was only like 14 years old at that time. And so I wrote a couple letters to Flying A Productions, which is a Gene Autry-owned company at the time, and offered my services as his stunt double, not knowing a thing about how the business worked. And not only that, but I had no idea that Dick Jones was an excellent roper, you know, with the lariat, and an excellent rider. And he and another guy named Fred Crone did almost all the fights and stunt work in the series. And I never got an answer back. I didn't find all that out until later, but I didn't get an answer back from Flying A Productions, needless to say, at my age. And I never lost the drive to get into business in some way or another as an actor or as a stunt guy. Finally, at my 15th birthday, I was at a place called Corriganville. Corriganville was built and owned by Ray Crash Corrigan. He's an old-time movie Western guy, and he played some space dude, too. I don't remember his name. But anyway, they were doing live shows on the weekends. And I went out there with my fiancée, and on the way back, she said, "You've been falling on your butt all day long, up and down steps." And she said, "Why don't you just go back there and ask the people for a job?" Oh, that's a great idea. So I went back down to town and asked the guy that did the hiring, Charlie Aldrich. I found him in the saloon, and I asked him for a job, and he said, "Listen, I'm busy." He said, "Can you come back next weekend?" And this was Sunday. So I said, "Yeah, sure." And it was 55 miles one way. So I came the next Saturday I was there, and the next Sunday I was there, and I get the same story. "I'm busy. Can you come back next week?" I came back again, and on the third trip back, he said, "You're a persistent little shit, aren't you?" Yeah. So he said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll hire you. and I didn't get paid, but he said, you got any Western outfit or anything? I said, no. He said, go to a Goodwill store and buy yourself a vest and, a hat or whatever. So I did that, and I showed up the next week, and then next week, and then next week, and all I did was walk in the background. That's not what I signed up for. I wanted to play cowboys and shoot guns and,
Right.
That's like every kid's dream, to do the cowboys and Indians and... Right?
Exactly. I don't know how old you are, but how old are you?
I'm 45.
Okay. I'm 37, so.
Finally, I got an opportunity to do one of the bad guys because the actor that usually did it, he didn't show up. And so two friends who became friends, Bob Bixson and Jerry Vance, gave me the opportunity to get killed in one of the shows. And it was like I immediately endeared myself to them. And I took over the shows like Billy the Kid for every Billy the Kid thing that we did. The hanging of Henry Plummer was another one I did, and it was neat. And I was there for 56 to early 59. Like I said about Bixton and Jerry Vance, they became good friends. And Jerry went on to do a series called The Green Hornet, where he doubled Bruce Lee. And he used to come to my house and pick me up and take me up to the studios, and he introduced me to everybody. And through that, I met a guy named Bill Ward, who wrote, produced, and directed my first movie, and I guess it was his too. But anyway, he afforded me the opportunity to join the Screen Actors Guild. He wrote a letter to the producer saying, I'm going to use this guy and so on. So I went to my doctor one day and was telling him about it because I didn't have the money to join. It was $125 back then. He said, I'll give you the money. So he gave me the money to join the guild. I joined the guild and did Ballad of a Gunfighter with Marty Robbins, El Paso.
Oh, the old singer, yeah.
And that was my first thing. And then I met Walt Disney. I met Walt Disney I did a lead-in to one of his television shows, A Wonderful World of Color. And he took a liking to me, and I was there for 10 years. And through that, I met Kurt Russell, and his dad put me in his contract. And so when they called him, they had to call me too. So through Kurt and Escape from New York, I met John and Deborah Hill. And the next thing I'd doing after Escape from New York is Halloween 2. And that's how I got the job on Halloween 2.
So did they handpick you for Michael Myers at that point? Like they already had you in mind when they started the script? Or like why did Nick Castle not return?
Nick and John were friends. Nick did it as a favor to John when he was on the show. That's why 5 different people actually were Michael Myers in that first movie.
Right.
But Nick got credit because he was he went to film school with John. They were good friends, and so they put him in credit him as Michael. Now, with the other deal, I got a call from Deborah. I went over to see her. She said, we'd like you to be the coordinator on this show. So, okay. You got to meet the director. No problem. So I headed down the hall and passed a couple of offices. When I got to the last office on the right, I looked in there, and there was this mask laying on a desk. There was a desk, a chair, and this mask. That was all that was in the office. And Deborah had said our movie is about a guy that wears a mask and so on. And I hadn't seen the original Halloween, so I really didn't know what he was talking about or what she was talking about. And so I went and put the mask on and came out and went to the doorway to Rick's office, Rick Rosenthal, and looked at him. He was sitting behind the desk. He looked up and he said, who are you? I didn't say a word. I just stood there and looked at him. And he said, who the hell are you? And I pulled the mask off and started laughing. And I said, I'm Dick Warlock, and Deborah sent me down here to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And he said, okay. So we had our little chit-chat about the movie and what he wanted and so on. And I said, nice to meet you. And I turned around and walked towards the door. And I turned around again and looked back at him. And I had the mask in my hand. I said, is there any reason I can't play this guy? And he said, well, I don't care if Deborah doesn't. So I went back to her desk, and I said, hey, he said I could if you okay it. And she said, yeah, we're never going to do another movie with that guy. And so, well, no, that came when I asked her for the outfit at the end of the movie. we're never going to do another one.
And here we are,
Yeah,
10
so
movies later.
Exactly. And I only did 2 of them. Number 2 and number 3. And the guy that really actually did all of the action stuff in part 1, the breaking of the door and the stabbing in the eye scene in there, you remember that?
Yep.
Stabbing a girl or a guy and sticking him on the wall. All the stuff where there was any action at all. The director of Halloween 3, Tommy Lee Wallace, did all that as Myers.
Right.
So in part 2, how much preparation did you do? Like, did you end up watching the first movie to see how Michael moved and, get the nuances down? Like, how much preparation went in there? You had to study, like, there's plenty of actors that, like you said in that movie, that portrayed him. So
I was used to studying actors anyway, because when you double an actor, you want to do the moves that he makes and the little nuances and things. It's not so much about looking exactly like the character, the actor. It's about makeup, hair, wardrobe, and studying those guys. And the reason that Bing Russell, Kurt's daddy, put me in his contract, he said, "Kurt, we sit at home, we watch your movies." I think I did 9 or 10. I don't remember exactly how many I did for him. But he said, "We can't tell you from Dick." So that's why they put me in there. So anyway, what I did was I watched the first movie, and there was only one scene that I really got a hook in, and that was the scene where right after he confronted her in the closet, and she stuck him in the eyes, and he fell down by the bed. Then they cut away to her, to Jamie Lee, sitting in the door frame, and he raises up in the background,
right
next to the bed. He raises up. Boom, like almost on the beat of the music as I remembered it, but I later learned that it wasn't because of that. But anyway, he raises up and he turns his head just mechanically, and I took that, and that's why I decided to use the guy mechanically, because with the first movie, I could never put a handle on any of his movements. They were normal. They weren't, I don't know, they weren't different to me. You know what I mean? It looked like a guy walking around in a mask.
Right.
Halloween time or something. Oh, pardon that, a pun. Anyway, that's what I decided to do with that.
Okay.
And when I got with Rick, just do whatever you would do. And that's the only direction I ever got from him. And Deborah Hill, who complained about me later on in a DVD interview thing or whatever they do at the end of films, when she was on the set every day, she could have come and said, "Dick, the movement, I don't like that slow, stiff. Can you do something else?" I would have tried to accommodate her, but she never asked for anything. Rick never asked for anything, so I just did what I did. And later on, like I say, she knocked me terribly, but he never did get it. He's a stunt man, and he never did get to walk. Well, what walk? I didn't see Nick Castle do any kind of exceptional movements or walk or anything. So I did what I did, and the people out there in Fanland, they seem to like it.
Yeah, I don't see where that's coming from either. I like it.
Yeah, it comes across fine.
So what do you have a favorite scene or a death perhaps in your movie that you filmed during Halloween?
Well, no, I kid people because I say, "Oh, the hot tub scene."
I wonder why.
They do exactly what you just did. They laugh and, "Oh, yeah, well."
Of course.
But I never saw it from the front until I saw the movie. So it wasn't what you thought, right? Other than that, no, I don't have a particular one that. It was a job for me. You know what I mean? I wasn't looking at it in as an artistic actor, from Lee Strasberg's School of Myers Acting or something.
Yeah, you weren't dissecting it like all us fanboys were. But did you do the fire scene then at the end of the movie?
Yeah.
What can you tell us about like the preparation going into that as far as doing a fire stunt and what went into that scene?
I had done several before that. I did the Hindenburg, and I can't remember. But I had done several fire burns prior to that, so I knew what it was about. But I can tell you how we did it. We were on stage in a studio. I can't remember the name of the studio, but it used to be right across from Paramount. And we had worked on something else over there. But anyway, it was inside. Most fire burns are done outside. So it's inside, and they built the set of the hallway. And at where I come through, where you see me come out of the room into the fire or on fire, on the other side from where the camera is looking, I was standing back there getting prepped with the fire suit and everything, the underwear, the fireproof underwear and all the stuff that goes with it, the glue and everything. And right in that doorway, they had 4 fans, and not the kind of fan with blades on them. They're about 8 inches wide. It's the shape of a fan that you would fan yourself with. Okay. That a woman would use, that it's arced, and then it comes down to a point where the handle is. Right. Well, these fans look like that, and they have an opening of about a half to 3/4 of an inch. And there's 4 of them, and each one is attached to a hose, which is then attached to propane tanks. Okay? When we're all set to go, and I've got the glue on me, which is what really creates the fire, they light those fans. The stunt double lays down or sits down by the cooler, the water fountain there. They holler action, and I walk through the flames, and the flames that are coming just light me up. And I walked for, I don't know, I'm going to say 35 seconds, but I'm not sure. When it got hot enough, you'll see, if you watch it carefully, you'll see me start to jerk. Well, that's because the flame was getting real hot on my forearms. And so I hit the ground, and there were 5 stunt guys in there. My oldest boy was one of them that came to my rescue and put me out. And by that time, my arms had burned along the backside of my forearms. So we also did it again after that. Wow. Whoa. We did it the burn the second time. But why we didn't get it the first time, I never found out. But
that had to be some hesitation going into the second time, I would think.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. But, let's see. You never went to the old Disneyland, did you?
No.
When they used to give A tickets, B tickets, C tickets, depending on the ride. The A ticket was a walk down Main Street, I think, and then it went up to E tickets. So I say something like, I went to Disneyland, I took the E ticket ride, and now I'm going to pay for it. So
well, that's pretty crazy. I'm like when you had to reshoot things like that, like in some of your other movies, like you said, you're like, well, why didn't we use that first take? Like. Yeah. How'd you feel about doing some second takes on other movies as well? Like, was there always like, do we really have to? Or was it the job and you're going to do it to get it done?
Well, yeah, you got to do that. And it's got to be safe enough so that you can get up and do it a second time or a third time. Right. Yeah, those things happen. I mean, they really do. I did a show, Escape from New York, where a friend of mine who I hired to do a car turnover. And he went up the ramp, but he was right in the middle of it, and he went right over and landed on his wheels. We can't do it. So we had to do it again, but that wasn't one where he would have got hurt, you know what I mean? Right. But yeah, those things, and it's always stunt guys. The stunt is always the last thing in the day usually to do. Come on, guys, let's get this. We're losing the light. And they rush you through it, and you can get hurt bad sometimes doing that. Sure. And so I always pride myself in safety first. If we have to come back tomorrow, we come back tomorrow.
Absolutely.
That's what we had to do with the fire thing, because the first one destroyed the set. Maybe, and it was hot. It was hot in there because it was inside. There was no place for the flames to go. There was a ceiling in this hallway. It wasn't like the heat could go up and out of the set, but they put the ceiling in it because they didn't want the stage to burn down.
Working in Halloween 2, just want to stick on that for a little bit. How much did you interact with the other actors on set, like Donald Pleasance and Jamie Lee Curtis? Like, did you get to know them as like co-actors?
Yeah, it was more a stuntman role. Now I knew Donald Pleasance from Escape from New York. Some people have a different recollection of him, but he was a very consummate professional. He was ready on set when you needed him. He knew your dialogue as well as his, and that's the way he was. And he didn't sit around and BS. When he wasn't working, he went to his trailer and came out when they wanted him, except to eat. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's the way he was on Halloween. He wasn't congenial, really, at least around me. But I wasn't really congenial with it. Like you asked about the other people, I wasn't congenial with them. With none of the actors, I had a job to do, play this guy, but I had to also care for their safety at the same time. So I'm trying to think about that. And Anna Alicia, who was the nurse who got the needle in her temple, that poor girl, when we did the rehearsal, she went down to the floor when I supposedly took the needle out, and when she didn't make it to the floor, she hit her head on the corner of the desk.
Oh, man.
I feel awful to this day, but I've seen her twice now since then. I apologize profusely, and that's 40 years ago or something. But it still bothers me that she hit her head and I couldn't protect her.
We'll jump to Halloween 3. You said a little bit earlier, some fans had a lot of, I guess, negative feedback when it first came out. Now it's considered a cult classic. It's awesome.
Yep.
But it was such a departure from the rest of the franchise. Did you know going into it that Tommy Lee Wallace was taking it that direction? Like I've heard in the past that he wasn't a fan of slashers so much. So I don't know if he intentionally did that from the get-go. And, what were your thoughts on making it so different?
Well, I get the call that we're doing a movie called Halloween 3, and I just thought it was about Myers. And when I got there, I can't remember whether it was Deborah or Tommy that told me, well, you're going to be the lead assassin guy in this, and here's what you're going to do. And and that was the first I knew really what was going to go on. I just thumbed through the script as for action. Because I didn't know about being the assassin. I thought it was going to be the stunt coordinator only. And so when I got the deal about doing the assassin, I was kind of tickled because I thought, finally I get to do a little gig where I'm a guy all the way through it. Instead of getting, hey there, they went that way, bang, dead. That kind of situation.
So you didn't know it would be that different going into it, and I guess so. He intentionally wanted to make it, or did he have studio pushback to make it different, or were they trying to have him do the same movie and he just took a different path?
I don't know a thing about any of that.
Okay.
The politics and what went on and the business end of it, I have no idea.
You were just signed on for a job.
Tommy had probably explained it to me, but he could. But no, I've never been asked that question, and I wish I had some good positive feedback here for you, but I don't.
All right. Well, like I said, it's a cult classic now. I mean, everybody knows the Silver Shamrock song, and it's a Halloween classic. So.
Yep. And that's nice to see, because I always thought from the beginning that it was a good standalone movie.
Agreed.
And I feel that way today. It's a good little movie. I thought Tommy did a good job.
So kind of want to move on to like some of your other works that you've done. Get away from Halloween a little bit here. One of the things I noticed I was doing a little bit of research was you did work on some Mel Brooks movies. So, I mean, Blazing Saddles, I believe, was one, and that's one of my all-time favorite movies on there. It's just a classic, hilarious movie. But what were you doing in that movie and some of the other Mel Brooks movies that you were in?
Well, Blazing Saddles starts when they've set up the town, where the bad guys are coming in. Well, I guess they are the bad guys, and they're all stick figures, and they're just false fronts. Remember?
Yep, they're going into town, whooping and hollering, right? Something like that.
There they go. Well, when the fight starts, I'm in the fight. I even have a quick. I mean, it's a half a second close up with Tony Epper, one of the Hollywood's elite stunt guys, throws a right hand and knocks me out of the screen. And standing where I was is the drunk, the Gabby Hayes character. Mm-hmm. We did that fight in about a week, I think it was. And I got to tell you something. When we got into doing the pies, by the second day or the third day, it was so god-awful, terrible with the odor, because they were real pies from Martino's Bakery in Burbank that they were using, and they could not wash the wardrobe. So every day it got worse. So you're putting this stinky wardrobe on. But anyway, I was in the fight all the way through to the cafeteria, and it was a blast. Dom DeLuise was a blast, and it was just fun. It was fun.
And then from there, you built up a little bit of rapport to do some of the other Mel Brooks movies, like Men in Tights, I think, Spaceballs.
Yep. Spaceballs. I still, that's one that the people pick out a scene. In fact, I got a picture of it where the Bill Pullman, the lead guy, comes around and I'm standing guard, and he puts his fingers on my shoulder, and I worked, even though I worked in a couple of the original Star Treks, I didn't remember anything about a Vulcan pinch, but he grabs me by the that shoulder and says, and I said, "What the hell are you doing?" He says, "The Vulcan pinch." No, Yeti, to stand up here where the shoulder meets the neck, like this. Oh, and down I go. And that's people recognize that. They even recognize me from my voice, because you really can't see me in that bubble outfit, the helmet. And they recognize my voice and say, you were the guy who was in Spaceballs. Yeah.
I got to ask you about one of my favorite movies, Jaws. I know you did the work for Richard Dreyfuss. But how was it working with the animatronic shark? You always hear horror stories of how that worked. So anything you can shed light on, as far as your scuba diving scene in that movie?
Well, the shark worked because it was in fresh water and not salt water. So it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Okay.
We were at MGM Studios. They have 3 lots, and we were on lot 3. And we were in the Esther Williams tank, which was built for Esther Williams to do her swim stuff in it. I don't recall exactly how deep it is, but probably I'm going to say 15 feet. That's probably pretty close, because I never really saw the shark out of water to really figure out how tall I was to the shark or the gimbal that it was riding on. So I can't tell you, but I'm going to say 15 feet by 30 feet across. And they had portholes in it. And Steven Spielberg was at one porthole, and Whitey Crumb, the special effects guy who had the controls to the shark, was a quarter of the ways around looking at another porthole. The first thing they did with me is they curled my hair and got me in a wetsuit and everything, and curled my hair, and I got in the water, and immediately my hair went straight, because you can't do, just a curling iron, because when you get in water with, anyway, my hair went straight. So they took me out, they dried me off, they did a permanent on the head without cutting my hair. So it really looked, it was ugly when I got home. And really. So anyway, we get into the cage, and the first thing that happens is he runs the shark into the cage, which knocks the regulator out of my mouth. And I'm having a little bit of a time getting my regulator back, but I got it back and got it in my mouth, and nobody knew what was going on there. Steven is yelling, over a microphone to Whitey, the effects guy, move it up, close the mouth, bite the mouth. There was one scene where I got my leg between the cage and the mouth, and I thought, if this thing I didn't think that at the time. I don't know what I thought, but if it could have closed all the way, I would have taken my leg off probably, because you can't fight back against a 2-ton hunk of steel with rubber coating around it. It couldn't close all the way. I think it was about 6 or 8 inches that it would stay open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It opened so far and only closed so far. That was about the extent. We've shot there for a week, and that's what we ended up with, what you see on screen, which is, 30 seconds, if that? They shot an awful lot of footage down there for a week, every day. Anyway, More on Jaws or moving on?
Whatever you want. I was going to ask, though. One of my other personal favorites is Better Off Dead. I saw you did work on that. What exactly did you do in Better Off Dead, if you remember? With John
Better
Cusack.
Off Dead. I never heard of that one either.
No? Okay.
Well, sometimes you're working on a film that has a title that's tentative. And by the
Right.
time
Yeah,
the movie
working
comes
title.
out, you don't know what it is. I get residual checks for movies I have no idea I worked on.
That's not really a good
Yeah,
feeling,
hey,
though.
as long as they keep coming, man, it's all good.
Believe me, I don't mind.
So we know you were, Kurt Russell's personal stunt double. Do you have a favorite story that you like to tell of something that you and Kurt, did on set or personal interactions with him?
Well, my favorite I couldn't tell you because I'd have to see you, over a beer at a bar.
We'll have to arrange
I
that.
can't tell you that. But I got to tell you about Kurt as a person. He's one of the most loyal guys that I've ever known. He no matter what happened, he was there by my side.
But we have a friend of the podcast we had on recently, Bob Elmore. He was
Big Bob.
Yep.
Yeah.
I gave him his. I think he said it was his first stunt job, doubling John Candy on the Spaceballs.
Yeah, he said, he knew you, and that I know he was the personal stunt double of John Candy. And I saw he did
Yes.
also stuff with Married with Children, which you were on. Did you do things together on that show, or any stories you can tell us with working with Bob?
Yeah, we did a fight at the bar.
That's got to be kind
Yeah,
of
we
cool.
did. They called it the Titty Bar, I think. He took his kid, David. I don't know his cast name, but anyway, he took his son to this bar, and a fight broke out. There was a whole bunch of us stunt guys there.
So that's cool. You get to, be in a bar fight with your fellow stunt friend,
Who would have thought Leatherface and Michael Myers fighting?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, the best part for me was watching Ed O'Neill throw punches. This guy's very good. He was. I mean, I really got a kick out of him. And to see an actor that can do that is rare. There's only a few actors that can do that real good. Real well, that kind of stuff. Most of them think they can, but they can't.
So after you're over your whole career, I mean, you've done all the movies we talked about, TV shows. What was your most dangerous stunt that you have done? The one that sticks out as, whoa, I did that, I accomplished it, and it was crazy that I did that.
I have several, but one of them was on Bob Wagner was starring in a movie for TV called Pearl 41, which is about Pearl Harbor. And I was doubling a young kid going from there's a boat that goes from ship to shore that will haul sailors back and forth. We're sailing. We're headed out after the done bombed the place, and the ships are sinking, and things are on fire. And what I have to do is, as it is going in, side by side with the ship, but it's about 50 to 60 feet from it. So I dive off of this transport vessel into the water, which is on fire. And I have to swim to the ship 50 feet away and come up at the ladder and climb up. Well, I talked to the effects guys about the fire. They said, well, you just make a hole in the water, the surface, and the fire will move away from you. Okay, that's cool. So I dive in, I'm swimming along. I figure it's time to, about halfway there maybe, and I come up and break the water. There's blue sky, and I go, there's blue sky, but the fire has taken all the oxygen away.
Yeah.
So I've exhaled most of the air getting to the spot where I was going to go up. Now I got nothing left. I went down, and I thought, I don't know if I can make it there. And my lungs are starting to just burn. So I got to the side, grabbed the ladder, broke water again, and by this time the fire had kind of started to go out. So I was free of that. And I climbed about halfway up the ladder, and they hollered cut. So
Wow.
sometimes you just never know. I mean, I was hanging off a helicopter that 3 months after we did the scene, the plane, it was a movie called Cat from Outer Space, which is a little Disney film, and I was doubling Ken Berry up on top of a biplane, an old Stearman biplane.
Right.
And then I had to get rescued off of that plane by a girl, Sandy Duncan was her name. She was stuck up there, and the helicopter was flying itself. And because the pilot and his cronies had jumped out, and so I climbed up on the wing of this plane, and I'm reaching up trying to get her to come down to me, and she finally, the helicopter comes low enough that I grabbed the strut, and then the plane pulled down and went away, and I've got the strut, and I've got she climbs down on my back, and I'm hanging on the strut. But the guy that was flying the airplane, the biplane then comes up under me because the cat's flying the plane.
Of course.
This marvelous cat in the movie that has a collar that just, it's an alien, this cat from outer space.
Yeah.
Anyway, it comes up, and Frank Tallman was the pilot, and he was a noted airplane guy, and he came up so close that I had to bend my legs. Now, mind you, that prop is about 2 feet away from me, and the plane's moving back and forth. He's got a hood over his head, so they can't photograph him. I had to bend my knees, and so did she. She was almost standing up, and then it pulls away. But the pilot, Frank Tallman, about 3 months later, he was flying for another movie, and he crashed into a mountain, one of the mountains out there in California, and died. That could have happened with us. Wow. Because neither one of us had parachutes on. We were tied to this airplane with cable. I could have gone down with them because I couldn't wear a parachute, and he said, "If you don't wear one, I'm not either."
So I'd imagine, from years of doing all these falls and stunts, your body has to take a toll. I mean, do you have any issues now from that, or is there any regrets of maybe you would have done something else?
The only thing I might have done was sing. No, I like to sing, but I sound too much like Elvis to ever do anything with it.
Okay.
And besides, I have terrible stage fright, guys.
Really?
Getting up at public. I'm lucky I can do karaoke. Anyway, my right knee I had replaced about 6 years ago. My left knee, November the 7th of last year. I'm still in rehab from that. My right shoulder is the next thing it's in pain right now. It's the next thing to either be replaced or cleaned out or whatever has to be done to that. My memory, I think, is really what started that was I was working on rollerball, the original rollerball with James Caan.
Yep.
And during lunchtime, I was skating backwards around that track, if you've ever seen that movie.
Yep.
I jumped at another skater, a guy named Craig Baxley is a friend of mine. He was, anyway. And it wasn't because of that he went on to be a director, and I don't see him anymore. But I jumped in the air backwards over him, but as I was going over, he stuck his leg up and tripped me. So I fell flat on the back of my head. I mean, whap on that hard track. And I got up and shook myself off and skated around a couple of times, and I started feeling tired. So I went down and I laid up on a gurney that was there, and the next thing I know, this was on Monday at noon. The next thing I wake up Wednesday afternoon. I was knocked out for 2.5 days.
Wow.
And I think I did a thing for Joe Flynn, Captain Binghamton from McHale's Navy. He was invisible. It was now you see him, now you don't with Kurt. At the end of the movie, he walks into a room and he sees a mirror on the wall. He stops and looks at it, and he discovers that he can't see anything except from the waist down, right? Because they spilled this juice on him that Kurt made and makes him invisible. So I have to fall straight over backwards, and I thumped my head pretty good on that one. I've done a number of the thumpers on the head, and I think it's taken its toll.
Yeah, with everything they say about, concussions in sports and things like that, the knowledge that they have now compared to, even a couple years ago, that definitely does take an effect.
Yeah. It's just, you bought the e-ticket and you take the ride and you suffer the consequences. It would have been easier to be a singer or an actor. Acting is another thing. I really suck at that. And my son, Billy, he got all the charm and memory to do the acting. So he's a millionaire and he lives in Telluride, Colorado with an actress wife, and, they're happy. Real happy.
That's awesome. So when you watch movies, you always hear NFL players, like, they can't watch the game and just enjoy it. They're sitting there breaking down plays and studying it. Can you watch a movie and just enjoy it, or do you automatically go into stunt coordinator mode and try to figure out, all right, this is what I would do. How do you, do this jump, or how I would have done the car this way?
No, I'll tell you what I do, though, is I pick out the stunt guys, and especially the older films. But yeah, I'll pick guys out, and it aggravates my wife. I'll say, hey, there's Jerry Brown, or there's Jerry Vance, or there's Bob Lemon, and she'll say, yes, I know, I've seen him before.
That's funny.
I don't recognize hardly anybody in the new films in the last 10 years. But I watch a lot of old westerns. I'll watch Gunsmoke and Bonanza and all that stuff, and I know most of the guys in there.
Yeah, I'd imagine, from what Bob told us too, it's a very tight-knit community, with the stunt doubles. So,
well, when I joined the Stuntmen's Association, I think there was 62 members. I don't know how many there are today. There was one group, and that was it, Stuntmen's Association, and then it turned into three groups, ISA, International Stunt Association, and Stunts Unlimited, which Hal Needham started. And now there's worldwide stunt groups, from New York to Los Angeles to all around the world.
So it was, especially back then, you only had like 62 guys doing this. We know it's a tight-knit community. Did you guys become friends through this and get jobs for each other and support each other? How would you do this stunt? Get others' inputs and things when you're even working on different movies. Like, how tight were you guys? Well,
you make friends in a group like that. Grown to, I think it's somewhere around 125 guys when I left. Yeah, you make friends, and those are the guys you ride motorcycles with, or you hang with, doing car stuff, or rehearsing, rappelling and scuba diving. You keep your skills up with those guys usually. You're right, it's a family, but it's just got a lot of politics in it as well. There are groups within groups within groups,
Sure.
And you just sway with it. It's people you get along with, and there's people that you don't. You may hire those people to do because they can do the job you need done, but it doesn't mean that you're going to hang out on the weekend.
Right. Yeah, that goes for any line of work. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get you out of here on this. Just a couple fun questions. I just have to know, what is Halloween season like at your house? Do you celebrate Halloween? Do you watch the movie? What do you do on Halloween?
Well, when we're in town, which is almost every year, it varies. I've got a 6-foot mannequin Michael Myers, and his arm goes up and his eyes move and stuff. Then I've got the costume that I still put on once in a while as a surprise for people. And usually there's about 55 to 60 kids. And then there's all the parents and everybody else that comes with them with cameras, and it gets hectic after a while, but we enjoy it, all the questions and the requests for the autographs and the pictures and stuff. By the end of the night, at my age, I just turned 79, so I'm kind of feeling my age, and I can't hang out as long as I used to.
But these kids, they know they're going trick-or-treating at Michael's house. Like, they don't know they just don't think you're just a regular guy. Like, they know you're Michael.
Well, yeah, they know I'm Michael,
well, that's
but
cool.
They appreciate that I'm a regular guy, too.
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty neat, though. Like, to trick-or-treat at Michael Myers' house is pretty awesome.
Well, I wasn't going to tell anybody when I moved here what I did. I was going to tell them I was in the movie business as a carpenter, a grip. A friend of mine, hey, use every perk you can use. If somebody wants to do something for you, let them do something for you, And because he said, I came to Bemidji, Minnesota, he says, I wanted to buy a NASCAR racetrack. And he said, I went to the banker and told him what I wanted to do, and he said, "Well, yeah, but and he said, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "Well, I just moved up here. I'm a stuntman in the movies and Carradine and so on." So, oh, well, how much you need? 60,000. Well, here, sign your name here. He said, "You can't do that anywhere else, or what have you." So he said, "Use all the perks you can use." So I was in the hospital with my heart surgery, and the newspaper came, and they wanted a story. So I gave them all, the story. The perks come along with that. I don't need to go into it, but they do. People just, "Oh, you were Michael Myers. You were a stuntman. Do you know this person or do you know that person?" Yeah, or no, whatever it really is. I mean, I don't flower it up, but yeah, it's been a great ride. I got to tell you, fellas, it's been a terrific ride, and I really enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I mean,
you've people that I've met a few stinkers. But
you've done some amazing
great
work.
people.
So, I mean, the fact that you provided so many people so much entertainment, I think that's where the perks come back, where they don't mind providing you something in return for, all the years you provided them something.
Well, that's the way those conventions that we used to do or have done. I mean, I've made so many friends through those things. In fact, I had dinner with a guy and his wife that I met at a convention, and since then they've been great friends, and they live in this area, it turned out. So, yeah, I still like to give to them.
Right, so it sounds like you're kind of done with the convention appearances, but people can still, I guess, get in touch with you for autographs from your website, dickwarlock.com, correct?
Exactly, yep. Okay. We still got our pictures going, and I go in and try to do updates every now and then and keep it up. I really appreciate the fans. That's the only reason I even do the conventions or did them, and I'll continue with the website because the money is really charity, not charity for us, but it goes to charity,
right?
Ultimately. Yeah.
And people can also send in their personal items as well with return packaging, and you sign their personal posters or masks and so forth.
Yep. Okay. Yep. And by the way, two people that are very dear to me are Curtis and Dallas.
They're two of my dearest friends in life, honestly.
I got to tell you, Curtis helped me so much with my website and just being a friend. Yeah, we ought to go up and do you do the Halloween thing that they do?
I am always there, yep.
Okay. Well, we'll probably see you this year.
All right, I hope you can make it.
Well, we've just had things that have interrupted in the last, 3 or 4 years. So now that we're settling down, the only thing that's still keeping us from traveling is we got a 17-year-old cat that just refuses to kick the bucket. We took him to the vet not long ago, and the vet said he's got all of his teeth. The only thing is he's lost about a pound and a half. He said, other than that, this cat is in great shape. His coat is good. He still grooms himself, and he's going to be around for a while.
You can bring him with.
No. No, he's not a normal cat. He hates to travel. And he'd probably squall all night at the motel. So,
well, thanks again for your time, Dick. Appreciate it.
Give Cat our best.
I will. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
She'll appreciate that.
All right, and have fun playing Red Dead Redemption.
Okay, man.
All right.
See you later.
Take it
bye.
easy. So that was our interview with the great Dick Warlock. Wow.
Funny, man. He's a character.
He is. He's it's so easy to talk to. Had so much insight in every movie that he's done. Mel Brooks movies, the horror movies, the Disney stuff that he did. Like, he did it
Westerns all over. Look him up on IMDb.
TV shows, yeah.
He's in hundreds of things. It's unbelievable.
Very impressive career.
I mean, synonymous with Halloween. When I think Halloween, it's pumpkins, candy, witches, Michael Myers.
Pretty much. Those are the...
And we just talked to Michael Myers. It's awesome.
That's what Halloween is,
So,
man.
I mean, you want to talk about an iconic character, and he got to portray him. It's unbelievable. And that's just the tip of his career. He's done so much stuff. So we hope you got as much of it as we did. But hit us up, dysfunctionalnerdcast@gmail.com.
On Twitter at DNerdcast. Also on Facebook. Just search for Dysfunctional Nerdcast. We're there putting up news and stuff. So yeah, reach out to us and let us know what you thought about this interview. We're going to get you more. Don't worry.
Yeah, let us know who you'd like to see. In the meantime, also check out dickwarlock.com. Order some autographs. He's got 8x10s already on there. You can also send your personalized stuff. Great guy. Nothing more I can say. So thank you very much for Dick for joining us. And again, thank you, Dallas and Curtis, for making it happen.